Hello everybody, Mrs. Hewitt here. Today we are going to focus on a skill we already learned earlier this year, but I just want to review a little bit, and today we're going to be rounding to the nearest 10. So I know it's been a while, but I kind of wanted to review how we set up that number line that's vertical. So if I had the number, let's see, 46, and I wanted to round that to the nearest 10. I'm setting up that vertical number line. And I'm thinking about what are the two 10s that are before 46 and after 46. So if I think about it, the 10 that is before 46 is 40. And then the 10 that is after 46 is 50. And then I also want to put in the midway point. So between 40 and 50, the midway point would be 45. Now, if I think about 46, I got to think about where it would fit in on this number line. And I know that 46 is one more than 45, so it would fit in right here. And since it's after the midway point, I know that it is closer to 50. So then it rounds up to 50. Or it's not equal. It rounds up to 50. All right, next number. I'm going to do the number 16. Or let's change the ones digit. I'm going to do 14. Okay, so the same thing here. I'm going to think about the 10s that come before 14 and after 14. Well, the 10 that comes before 14 would just be 10. And the 10 that comes after 14 would be 20. And if I think about that midway point between 10 and 20, that would be 15. And then I want to take my 14 and think about where it would fit in before my midway point or after my midway point. If I look at 14, I know that's one less than 15, so it would fit in right here. That is before 15 and is closer then to 10. So I would round down to 10. So 14 would round to 10. Okay, let's do our next one. I'm going to do 58. Okay. So same thing here. I'm thinking about what 10 is before 58 and what 10 is after 58. Well, the 10 that's before 58 would be 50. And the 10 that is after 58 would be 60. And then my midway point would be 55. And if you want to pause the video as I write down each one and try to figure it out on your own, feel free to do that so you can kind of see if you're doing it correctly. Now, if I look at the number 58, it's not going to be right after 55, but it's going to be a little bit past it. And I can already see that it's closer to 60 instead of 50. I think in the past we've made the mistake of rounding to the midway point, but we have to remember we're rounding to the nearest 10. So 60 and 50 are a 10. So I'm rounding up to 60. And if I just look at the number 58, I know it's closer to 60 than 50, so this makes sense. Now I'm going to get a little more complicated. Let me just get a tissue. And I'm going to do some 3-digit numbers, because I think this is where we get a little confused. Okay, so I'm going to start with the number 137. Now, even though there's a hundreds place there now, I'm still thinking about rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm still just thinking about the tens place. I still have to think about the 10 that is before 37. Even though it's 137, I'm just thinking about that 10. So I'm kind of ignoring that 100 there. I have to think about the 10 that is before 37 and after 37. So if I think about that, that would be 30. But I still want to add in my 100. So I'm going to put 130 as my 10 before 37. And then my 10 after 37 would be 40, but I have to add in that 100 still. 140. And then my midway point would be 135. Now, if I ignore the hundreds, I have 30, 40, and 35, which makes sense. That's what we just did. There's just that 100 there now. Now, if I think about where 137 goes, I know 7 is right after 5, so this is where it goes, 137. And then at that point, I know that it would round up to 140 because that's where it's closer to. So my rounding to the nearest 10 would be 140. Okay, next one. I'm now going to do, let's see, I'm going to change my hundreds place. I'm going to do 322. Okay, so same thing as before. I'm going to ignore that hundreds place as I'm still just thinking about the tens. Okay, so I'm thinking about the 10 that comes before 22 and after 22. So I'm still going to put that 3 there, because that's in the hundreds place, but I'm thinking about the tens. So I know that if I think about 22 alone, that the 10 that comes before that is 20. So I would be 320 down here. And then the 10 that comes after 22 would be 30. And I'm just going to add in that 3 in the hundreds place, so I keep making it consistent. Now, if I think about the midway point between 320 and 330, that would be 325. Now I have to think about where 322 would fit in. I know that 22 is before 25, and so 322 would become before 325. And then the nearest 10, then I would round down to 320. All right. I'm going to make it even a little bit more tricky and see if you can follow along with me this time. I'm going to add the thousands place. Let's see how we do. So if I did 1,412, 1,412. I'm still only thinking about that tens place, even though there's 100 and 1,000 there now. It gets even more distracting, but I'm still just thinking about that tens place. Now, maybe something we could do to make it less tricky is we can just add those distracting numbers there to start, so we don't have to think about them. So now I'm just thinking about the 12. What is the 10 that comes before 12 and the 10 that comes after 12? Well, the closest 10 that comes before 12 would be 10 itself. So I'm just going to add that 10 down here. And then the 10 that comes after 12 would be 20. And then the midway point would be 15. See how my 1 and 4 stayed the same in all of it, because all I'm thinking about is just that tens place. Now I have to think about, where does this fit? Now I know if we look at the whole number, it can get kind of confusing. So we're just looking at that 12 really, because that's the 10 we're thinking about. So 12, where does that fit in? Does that fit in after 15 or before 15? Well, it fits in before 15. So I'm going to put that number there. Now, I know it's going to round down to 1,410, because that's where it's closest to. Now remember, we're not going to round to the midpoint. We're only rounding to the top or the bottom. And in this case, it rounds to that bottom number. So my nearest 10 here would be 1,410. Okay, I'm going to do one more tricky one. Let's see, I'm going to do 5,369. Actually, I'm going to make it tricky. 65. Okay. Now, once again, I'm only thinking about that tens place there. So I'm ignoring those two numbers before it, even though they kind of make the whole number. Now, I'm going to make my top number. What is the 10 that comes after 65? And what is the 10 that comes before 65? Well, if I think about that, the 10 that comes after 65 would be 70. And the 10 that comes before 65 would be 60. I'm just thinking about that 70 and that 60. And then my midway point be 5,365. Well, this is why it is tricky, because if I look at my midway point, I can see that it is the exact same number as the number up here. So I have to think about, what do I do now? Now I am wondering if you can remember, when there's a 5 in that ones place, do I round down or do I round up? It's not, the number's not going to come before or after the midway point. It is the midway point. So what do? We always round up when it's a 5. Even though it's exactly in the middle, we round up. So if I was rounding to the nearest 10, 5,365, I would round to 5,370. All right, everybody, I hope you got what I got, and I hope it wasn't too confusing. Have a wonderful day. I miss you all. Bye.